Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny. If you hear new, hit subscribe buttons and notification bell so you can never miss any our incredible content. SwiftUI Taxi app inside today we need to change this here. Create here the socket managers, view controllers we need to develop here and globally use inside this app. How can make inside the SwiftUI inside the socket client IO we need to connect inside with the Node.js servers. We need to explain this here and to create here the common class. First of all, we need this here. Needs here one package. We need to import here. I have find out here. Open the web browsers. We need to open here and we need to find out here the socket IO client iOS. We need to find out here this library. We need to use this here socket IO dot client shift UI. Need to call this here and we need to copy these URLs. We need these here and we need to put inside the package. We need to import here, click on plus and we need to find out here this package, paste this here the URLs and we need to call this here socket IO clients. Need to add this package and need to select this here the project or projects inside, put this here. Now need to import here. Now fetching this library and we need to configure inside our projects. And then after we need to create this here the taxi folders, view models, add this package now, and now need to go taxi driver folders. Inside we need to go this here the view models and now need to create here the new SwiftUI files. Need to write down here socket view controller view model, not controllers, view models. Like this we need to create here these files inside the view models. And now need to convert inside the any models to observable models. We need to class create here. Like this we need to create, we need to copy these samples here and we need to put this here and also need to remove this here the preview, copy these names and to replace this here. Now we need to create here the share class. Now we need to go inside the our view controllers and to define imports here the socket view controllers socket IO. We need to import here the library imports socket IO like this. And then after we need to declare here the two variables. First of all we need to give this here the managers is equal to socket managers like this, and where socket is equal to socket client. Need to declare here IO client exclamatory signs like this. We need to setting this here. Now we need to call here the init methods. We need to call this here these functions and to write down here all these here the init initialize, no needs parameters we need to remove here. Now need to call this here the self dot managers is equal to, need to pass this here the socket managers and to give this here the URLs. Need to pass this here URL from string, find out string. Now we need to pass this here string. First of all we need to declare this global files inside the node base URLs. We need this here, need to declaring here now copy here node URLs as a base URL. Need to pass this like this, but not give this here the slash. Need to remove here and to set here like this, save this here and to give this here the node URLs, save like this. Now need to go socket view controllers. Now need to pass here the globes dot node URLs like this, sets here, configures here. And then after we need to config, we need to set exclamatory signs for this URLs required, not possible to optionals. You not get this URL, need to crash this here these lines and to fix this again. Always please make sure this URLs are the format is valid, otherwise app will still crash here. and to set here the compressors. Like this, we need to parameters pass this here. Now self.sockets is equal to, need to give this here events, we need to self.managers dots, we need to give this here the default sockets to get here. Now we need to write down here the events. On events, we need to call this here the sockets dots, we need to call here the ons. Events names, need to give this here connect client events. Check client events, and to give this here dot connect events, and to get this here the callbacks. First we need to give this here the data. Second one is parameters acknowledgement variables, and to set here the acknowledge c ack like this. And now need to print this here this variables, we need to print here, need to give this here socket connected logs, we need to print this here. If connect, then to get this here this message. And now also need to write down here another socket dots not once methods, we need to call this here the on methods like this, and another on methods we need to write here the client and set here the disconnect events, and we need to write down here the acknowledge data and ck this. Now we need to print this here this sockets, we need to print this here the socket, and write down disconnect events, we need to call this here and to print this here like this logs. And one more thing, we need to log this prints gets any other events, we need to get any events, then we need to write down print this here the logs event names, we need to give this here the event, need to get here in methods inside, we need to get here the events. Let's need to print this here. First of all, we need to response objects, we need to get this here the response objects, what we need to receive inside this object, we need to call this here the response obj, and we need to write down here the need to first of all the gets in the write down here the JSON parsers, we need to need this here, and to parse here needs here. First of all, we need to write down here the extension methods for the JSONs, we need to write down inside the strings class, we need to calling this here this value. Now we need to declare here the string. Now we need to go and we need to globes files inside, we need to write down here these methods screen not extension globes deals util inside, we need to write down here class dot functions, and to give this here the get JSONs methods, we need to call this here JSON. Now we need to give this here the object, and to get this any optionals, and we need to return this here any optionals like this, get here the parameters. Now we need to check this here if checks is equal to nil, then we need to return this here the nil value here. If not nils, then to call this here the for each, need to pass this here the for loops, call this here object string is in checks this here, and to write down here the try catch, need to write down here the print, and to errors dot localization descriptions, then after if let to write down here the object data is equal to brackets inside, we need to write down here the object string as optional string like this, and we need to convert into the data using encoded UTF-8 we need to convert, and we need to calling this here like this. After we need to return this here the try catch, we need to call this here the try method, and to JSON serialize to call this here with JSON objects with give this here the data objects. We need to runs data that here the options, that here the question mark needs here, and we need to call this options. Tables like this. We need to return this here the for these JSONs, and another class methods we need to write down here the convert any object to JSON string. We need to put here like this. We need to set here the exclamatory signs. We need to set here, otherwise it gets here the errors. Now fix this here. Now create another class methods inside. We need to create here the JSON string returns here any object need to pass, and to get here the JSON strings we need to any object to JSON string. Write down here JSON string, write down here object bj dot any, and we need to pass this here the priority. Now we need to set here returns here, call this here. Now we need to create here the guards, get data try optionals, call this here the JSON serialize dots data, and we do with options we need this here's the blank object, and else parts need to call this here quotes in a bracket. Any brackets need to write down like this, and also need to return here the string, set here the string, call this here the data parameters, and to encoding so here the data, and set here the UTF-8 UTF-8 nulls value. Like this we need to convert here the anything, return this here the JSON string for this convert, set this methods. Need these methods. Now need to go inside and to code this here the optional wrong place we need to stay not here. Now fix this here, and I need to configure again to call this here the util dot get JSONs, and we need to pass this here the event dot items experimentary signs we need to here, and now we need to print here the logs, and we need to write down here the get the chain, and now need to give here the event name, which events need to give this here gets here, call this here event, and now then to here comes now copy again need here, Now we need to set here items value, items, and response objects need to pass this here, this object. As any need to print this here, this are the printing here, and also need to print this here. To write down here the socket, and timeout. Here. Write down here callback you need to send print this here, and self socket here the status, and also now need to fire to this event and to try to connect these methods. And one more events need to write down here for our persons on event client and double quotes, and we need to give this here the names of its sockets like this here box, and we need to this here paste here data, and also need to print and then afterwards we need to get this here the objects to here the response response at the red question mark, and now need to print this here the object, need to get this here and this names object, receive here the objects and to print this here objects. Now we need to check this here object count more than 0, then we need to get dot response object is equal to, we need to give this here object if conditions, and then after so need to check this here if response object value for key, and we need to give this here for status, and we need to signs helm status print says status, and this here that's here and success, otherwise like this we need to listen here. And one more thing, you need to create here the one functions for the emit any methods, you need to call this here the directly to emits, write down here the emit methods. First of all, need to write down here the functions, and to write down here the emit, all this here event name string with, we need to give this here the items, and we need to pass as array like that here. Now we need to write down here the shift statements and check this here the self dot sockets dot status, and we need to check this here the connect dot connecteds, and self dots we need to call this here the socket emit events. Give these events, and items mean give this here the items, like need to call here, and to write down here the break statement parts dot connecting, then we need to print this here the log slash n connecting at the slash n self dots into self socket dot connect, and all this here is acknowledge. Yes. Self dot socket dots need to call this here emit events as a events passed, items as a items pass, like this, and now need to print again this logs of send. Like this, calling this here the events and another things here so not connected, then we need to print it. We need to write down it. So we need to call this here disconnect events, need to get this here image, need to copy and paste text it. Like this, we need to write down here this calling functions. We need to call this here, forgets here. So now fix these years and to write down years. And one more thing, so need to call this here the bit sockets API. Need to call this here the emit methods with the tokens. Need to check here first of all the this user are logins or not, so need to check this here, and then after so need to fire this here this update sockets events, so need to call this here in our servers. Write down here update sockets functions call our server inside the memory, save this socket id set per our use, like this set here, and now need to check if need to check this here the login flow, need to check here Show types, options. There is login, response. Socket inside with all these functions is equal in controller to models dot share. Now we need to check user login, and we need to call this here our controllers while to setting this here, and we need to call these functions here after the connect. Call this here self dot, like these methods we need to calling here after connects. We need to write down here the print first of all this sockets id. Need to print, write down here socket mark percentage. Now need to this here the value self dot sid, like this. We need to print this here socket id, like this. And now need to call this here the self dot with methods. Need to call this here the events names with sockets here, and you need to here the array. Call this here the bots session string. Priority we need to set this here the false, not any matters here, priority of these parameters. Now we need to set this here the value. Need to give this here the authentication to one. Need to check inside our node servers which parameters need to verify here. Now need to go inside the node.js codes socket controllers. Inside need to write down here the access tokens parameters. Need to read this here for the verifications, like this. And now need to pass this here the user logins. Call this here the mv dot user not depends here user object value for key authentication to that string. Save these years, like this. You need to calling these methods and save these years. And more one thing configurations are the need for the iOS. Need to if set foregrounds app and backgrounds need to disconnect and connects again. So need to events need to call this here are the needed, because if your apps in enter the backgrounds, then sockets need to disconnect and to needs again to reconnect. That's why I need to set here the disconnect and connect events need to write down inside the app delegates. Now need to configure inside the app delegates methods this socket connectivity. First of all need to creates here the app delegates inside the we need to write down here the objects delegates, write down here inside date finish. Need to connect this socket to set that share, and you need to write down socket models dot shared to call this years. And after need to there are two methods we need to write down here. First of all, first methods is applications enter background backgrounds and methods applications will enter foregrounds events like this. Need to call this here the socket view models dot share dots. I need to call this here the sockets dot connects events. I need to set here, and now here get dot share dot sockets dot disconnects events. We need to call this here disconnect. Like this we need to calling this here. This most important parts of these apps we need to configure here are the needed here. Now we need to run these applications inside this codes, and we need to this here the breakpoints work or not, get here this connect sockets or not. So we need to this event. More things we need to write down here. And call now we need to print here objects and like this print. And another we need to check here the current parameter being points connect other class. We need to check here so reconnect attempts status change and WebSockets upgrades. No needs any others configure. We need to check this here the globe files, and we need to see here returns forgets here the return methods. Need to fix this here the issue, and we need to returns here like this. Fix this issue. Now need to run these apps. Now starting the emulators, and we need to check these years. Now need to check here, and to receive here the socket connects events need to receive here, and need to identify this user are logins or not. So need to this is the socket ID, need to receive here as ID. Print this here, then to on next into executions. Now one time logins, and after update sockets events are working not. So need to check this here. Now captcha verify are the callings. Now need to enter here submit login app login successfully. Need to receive this here the message, and now we need to against runs because we need to not configure here the after login flow. Here's that's why on next here's one more things we need to set this here the update socket brackets Need to set this here. Find out this log. See this here, these sockets. To identify these logs, which place we need to get these logs. We need to set here breakpoints and start this app again. Run here. Now receive here these sockets, and to get this inside the value, need to get these logs and need to log in. And to receive here successfully status and connected, as well as we need to displaying here the node socket connect. We need to get this here the response. Need to get this tokens, need to verify here. If you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any questions, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care. And tomorrow need to call this here the socket supports that systems need to develop this here the UI, and then after need to calling this here the real-time socket connectivity with the sending message and receiving message, and with update the base counts. Need to see inside the to start this continue with this here the this tutorials.